So today we have on Eliot Spizzirri. Am I saying that correct? Perfect. University of Texas alumni right now, just transitioned to the Pro Tour and doing incredibly well. I think it's fair to say. Would you like to agree with that or?
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's very happy to be on this podcast. And it's been a good start for me. I just, try to play free these first couple of weeks as a professional. And I definitely feel like I have some momentum, but then again, it's on to the next tournament and you just try to take things week by week. So, I'm glad with the start, but I got to try to keep it going.
Nicely said. So a little bit about Eliot is that his current career ranking is 345. You had a very strong junior career where you had an ITF juniors ranking of 20 in the world. You were the US Open boys doubles winner. Pretty incredible. And you've just graduated from UT with a business major with a focus in finance. And then I just want to take a little bit of a look at your college accolades at the University of Texas. Just this last year, you were the 2023 ITA National Player of the Year, 2023 ITA National Senior Player of the Year, ITA Texas Region Senior Player of the Year, ITA All-American for singles and doubles with Cleve Harper. Is that how you say his name? I don't want to butcher his name.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, yeah.
And most importantly, you qualified as an ITA Scholar Athlete. Well done. And you finished 2023 ranked #1 in singles and #2 in doubles by the ITA, and you became the second player in UT history to finish #1 since the rankings began in 1981. That's some pretty nice accolades. And then now to look at your professional career a little bit, you were the winner of the men's 25K in Laval, Canada. I feel like
Yeah.
I butchered that a little bit, yeah. And then you won the men's 25 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where you beat Bernard Tomic. That was a pretty impressive win.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a tricky match. He's never an easy out. Definitely some heroics here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got an interesting game style. Plays the same as he did a couple years ago when he was on TV a lot. But he couldn't have been nicer, honestly. And I,
Mhm.
I do I do believe he'll be back up where he belongs pretty soon.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, yeah. Shout out Bernard. And you have 3 professional titles to your name right now. Some very serious accolades there. That's amazing. But
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, my first question for you is, after such a successful junior career where you've obviously achieved a lot, what pushed you towards college tennis and why were you interested in doing that? Was there not the idea to go pro, or what did that look like for you in that time period?
Yeah, my coach and I, through my junior career,
Mhm.
we decided that I was going to push as hard as I could to become a professional as soon as I could. And so what that meant was sort of putting college in the back of my head, like meaning I wouldn't think about it that much. Of course, everyone knows that college is a great option, and that's what I was thinking at the time. But I was just trying to shoot to be the best player I could be. And I think with that, I got to 20 in juniors at the end of my last year, and it was time to make a decision. And my coach and I felt that I needed a lot of maturing to do physically and most importantly, mentally. And so it was one of those things where like you shoot for the stars and land on the moon. And I started looking at schools, talking to a bunch of coaches, and I decided to go and play college tennis mostly because I wanted to develop more and also because I felt like having that balance in my life and having the education would ultimately free me up and give me more confidence going into a potential pro career down the line, which is what has happened. And it's the best decision I ever made, and I'm a huge advocate for other kids who may not feel like they're totally ready to make that jump to the professional tour, to go to college and enjoy however many years you're there. And yeah, of course, I could talk for days about how much I enjoy college tennis, but that's kind of the gist of why I decided to go.
Was it a difficult decision for you at the time? Or like weighing it up between going pro? Because if that had been like a lifelong dream for you at that point, did you feel like it was a step back in a way or no?
It wasn't very difficult because I truly didn't believe that I was ready to make the jump. So my gut told me I should go to college. I think what was more difficult was the decision on which school to go to.
Mm.
That was really challenging. But at the same time, I went, I was like, okay, I'll go to college, and if I'm good enough in a year, I can always leave. And so that's why I sort of had the mindset of, even if I go to college and let's say I start doing unbelievable and I kind of surprise myself on the professional tour, then okay, I can leave and I'll have a chance to come back and finish my degree later in life. So I don't feel like when you go to college, you're completely taking the professional tour. You're not putting it out the window because you can still play professional tournaments in college and see where you end up. So it just seems almost like for me, it was just so clear that college was the right option. And with kind of the deals you can get now where you can come back later in life and finish your degree, it didn't really make sense for me not to go to college. And looking back, of course, very good decision.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you mentioned there the recruiting process and how it was difficult for you to pick where you wanted to go. So what exactly did it look like for you? What were you looking for from colleges?
I was looking for a school that could help me become a pro
Mm-hmm.
as, you know, as soon as possible. In that sense, I wanted a school where I could compete for a national championship because I knew that's what I wanted to do in college. But at the same time, I wanted a school where they were invested in your personal development, everyone's personal development on a team. And I guess kind of the other factors would be I wanted a culture where I felt like these group of guys were best friends and people that I enjoy being around, and not just guys that are, at college to kind of be half in, half out on college tennis. I wanted a team that's all in on winning a national championship or trying to win a national championship, but, the best of friends aside from that. So we can, I had a kind of a balance. And I took a bunch of visits and ultimately, um, yeah, of course, then again, I thought about coaching staff, and that's a huge part of why I made my decision to go to UT was the coaching staff. So I would say the biggest part were most importantly, probably the team I was going to join because obviously I wanted to surround myself with people that had similar goals. And then I wanted a great coaching staff and people that were going to push me to my absolute limits and try to make me a pro. And then, of course, like anything, a little balance. I looked for a place where I knew I could have some fun off the court and feel sort of like home. And Austin, Texas, is certainly that. So yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, you spoke there about like the coaching staff and how they made it really special for you. What exactly was it about them that really stood out to you?
Yeah, so when I committed, it was Bruce and Brandon
Mm-hmm.
Wagner. Brandon Wagner is now the head coach at Clemson, and he left after my fourth year. But I had a really good relationship with Brandon in junior tennis because he coached one of my best friends and doubles partners at the time. So I had already known him. He got the job at UT, and I honestly wasn't even looking at UT until he got the job. And once he got the job, he reached out, and I started talking to Bruce a lot and Brandon as well, keeping in contact. And the level of detail and how committed Bruce and Brandon are to their jobs and to, at the time, our team was something that I just didn't see in any other programs. And something that I felt very confident going into, meaning I knew Bruce and Brandon were going to give their absolute all to help me and the team reach our goals. And then, like I said before, it was the most comfortable I felt was around those guys. I knew a lot of the guys that were on the team or incoming from juniors. And so I just felt so comfortable. And I knew those are the kind of guys I wanted to surround myself with, for 4 years of college potentially. And yeah. And then Austin, I fell in love with Austin. I knew that was going to be a cool place. It was definitely it was a hard decision because I'm from Connecticut and Austin is obviously a little bit maybe of a culture shock and kind of far away. And when I'm young, a lot of people here in Connecticut, the dreams kind of to go to UVA, UNC,
Mm-hmm.
some Duke. And so I wasn't expecting UT maybe like when I started the process, but I was super, super impressed with Bruce and Brandon and what the team looked like and how they went about their business. And so it was sort of at the end, it was a no-brainer, I think, and definitely a gut feeling. And I couldn't have been happier with the way they followed up on what they, sort of promised. And um, again, I had the best relationship with all the guys on the teams on our team over the years. And so I was just super grateful to be a part of a team where the culture was that strong.
That's amazing to hear. I mean, I was gonna say it's pretty different from where you are to then go to Austin, Texas. I've been there a few times, and it's certainly a fun place. Did you just fall in love with the beautiful campus?
Yeah, I mean the campus is pretty nice, but I would say like there's a lot more to offer than the campus. Some of the areas honestly around the campus could be dodgy, but
Mm.
it's gotten a lot nicer in my 4 years.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I would say like there's something for everyone in Austin.
Mm.
There's a lot of art, there's a lot of music, there's tons of things to do, a lot of sporting events, and so for me, as I love golfing, I love fishing, and I love good music. And so it was like the best combo because it was good weather all year round and always, a new spot to go check out and great restaurants. It's Austin's sort of a big food city and it's expanding and definitely a vibrant city. Like the just a really good vibe, just with I think all the young people moving there. So yeah, I'm a huge I could definitely sell on Austin because of how enjoyable it's been.
Sounds it. It sounds it. I mean, it's a super fun place to go to. I was like really impressed when I went, and you're right, it is quite pretty there, and I didn't know they had a lot of fishing to offer there. That's
It's like bass fishing. It's not, you're not in the ocean
hmm.
catching huge fish, but I kind of like going to like ponds and lakes and catching small bass. And so that's one of my favorite things to do in my off time. And so Austin does have some good bass fishing actually.
Perfect. Well, it sounds like the culture and the coaches played a massive part of why you committed to UT, as well as how pretty Austin is as well, and how it has everything that you wanted. So I was just wondering, you said previously that it took a second for you felt like you needed to mature emotionally, was that right? And physically in a sense. So I was just
Yeah.
wondering, with such a big move, was it difficult to adjust there within your first month? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, it was. I don't particularly love traveling as much as maybe some people do. I did all of high school online, so I could travel the world playing ITF junior events.
Mhm.
And so for someone that's traveled all around the world, it's crazy to think that I'm not the biggest traveler. And so yeah, going away from home for at least, semester was a little bit scary, but honestly, like the freshman teammates that I came in with, I came in January. So mid-year, the freshmen that were there, I was already close with, and they had been there for a couple months, and so I just felt comfortable being around them. They kind of knew the ins and the outs, and we had great seniors that sort of led the way. And yeah, it was, of course, anytime you go to college, you're adjusting. There's so much going on, and you're just trying to figure yourself out in a new environment. And luckily, Texas has unlimited resources that can help you sort of acclimate. And I was really nervous about school in particular, and they have a lot of resources to help with that. I mean, I can remember, my first day of class showing up an hour and a half early and like waiting, trying to figure out what to do, like going on YouTube, taking notes on a pre-lecture like for the class. And so it was like it was pretty crazy how nervous I was coming from online school, but looking back, it's like I just should never have had that stress on myself. Because it is just one of those things where you just figure it out as you go. And so I'm lucky to have had good people around me to help.
No, definitely. I've never heard of that before, turning up an hour and a half before that. But that takes some dedication.
Well,
So,
I mean, I hadn't raised my hand in the class in
oh,
5 years, and so I was like, the classroom's gonna feel really weird to me. I don't even know how to act.
mm,
Uh, yeah, it was more so like just being in a classroom full of people and them potentially calling on me. That was maybe the fear, which
okay.
of course happened the first class I was in. They call on you and ask your name and what are you doing and where are you from. And so yeah, no, it was. I got over that fear pretty quick.
Definitely, definitely. So you went in January. What was that that's a really hard. We had some girls this year like coming in January, and I think that's a really difficult position to be put in because obviously you had the fall where the team kind of gets to know each other, and then like spring comes and it's pretty heavy, like the schedule and school and stuff. Was it just the school part that you were nervous about, or were you pretty ready to come in January to just execute out there?
Yeah, I mean, I was more nervous about the school. Of course, I was nervous about the tennis too, but I got thrown right in the fire. I mean, it was, you know, I graduated high school literally December 31st, I think, or something, and then I was on campus January 8th or January 7th, and or yeah, we were going down to Florida, and we were ranked one because the team the year before I came in won the national championship. And so we were ranked one going to Florida and Gainesville playing them who were ranked two. Uh, and so I was my first match as college, for Texas as a college player was in Gainesville at night against, the one versus two teams in the country. And it was like incredibly hostile. And I think that almost helped me. I was so nervous going into it and I ended up battling out after Yuya clinched and I finished out my match and won in 3 sets. And it was one of those things where you just get thrown in the fire. You're kind of all over the place and you figure it out. And then after that, I thought I calmed down, settled, and had my bearings. But yeah, it was a challenge for sure. I went a semester early just because I thought it was smart to go early and try to finish maybe earlier if that was because that was one of the thoughts at the time. But I also the team was great and I figured we'd have a good shot at going deep in a tournament. And then of course COVID happened. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Good point. Yeah. So with the schedule and the life there at UT, what does that look like for you? You've mentioned that they've had limited resources. I think the facilities there are incredible. Like, what does the schedule and day-to-day life and practices look like for a UT men's tennis player?
yeah, it changes from year to year depending on class schedule. I think we had a bunch of fifth years, and so they were doing master's programs, and though they're less flexible on timing. But I would say traditionally for me, it was. Are you talking about me personally or just the team?
Yeah, you personally, and then if you wanted to highlight about the team as well, then that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I am a big believer in getting in the gym first thing you do in the day, and so I, on my own, just because it was good for my mental sanity and what I like to do. I would always get in the gym very early in the morning. And so I think 3 days a week, that would be followed up by an individual practice. So a one-on-one with a coach. And then I'd have classes. And most of us do our classes in the mornings and we're done around lunchtime. And so I would usually go to the gym, have a hit, work on some private stuff, and then I would go to classes from around, usually it's anywhere from 8 to 12:30, 8 to 1. And then we had team practice from 2:30 to 4:30 every day and a team lift slash conditioning 4:30 to 5:30. And so I guess there's a few days a week where you're practicing for, 3+ hours and a few days a week where you're just doing 2 hours with the team. But I guess as I got older, I tried to focus more of my time on the gym, and recovery, strength, conditioning, and of course the mental side of the game, and then less time on the court just because I've got some chronic wrist issues and it's tough for me to always spend as much time as I would like on the court. And so yeah, I mean, I guess the schedule sort of would shift more towards the gym later in my career,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I guess that's pretty standard for all of us. A couple private lessons a week and practice for 2 hours in the afternoon every day, and then classes usually mixed in between.
Before you joined UT and when you spoke to the coaches, had you spoken about like setting up a schedule like that that was more tailored to you? Had they made that clear that that was an option?
I wouldn't even say it was tailored to me. It was everyone has that same schedule if they want. I knew I wanted a lot of work one-on-one, and so I spoke to them certainly about that because that was a big piece of going there. I wanted to develop more as a player, and they did that. At UT, the way Bruce runs it, it's you can always ask for more if you want, and you can cut back if you're not feeling as good or you may be injured or so and so. So I never thought that I got like special treatment in terms of how many hours I got in court or the one-on-one stuff. And I would never want that. That's not what our culture was about. So yeah, I felt like they definitely did exactly what I wanted. But at the same time, I never wanted something different from like, the other guys. It was, if I was going to put more hours in, it was going to be, maybe more behind the scenes kind of thing.
Okay, got you. And you've mentioned pretty heavily about the team atmosphere, the coaches, and the culture. I think that plays such a massive part of like if you are to be successful anywhere you go, is just that culture and the importance of it. I'd love for you to tell me a little bit more about what exactly they did to make it so special and how that affected you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we just had a lot of guys the same age that did it for, we were all in school for anywhere from 4 to 5 years. So, this year we just graduated. Me, Cleve Harper, Evan McDonald, Siam Waldy, Micah Braswell, and Ishan Telluri. So it was six of us seniors that did this, this whole ride together. And I mean, we just got lucky. Like these guys all come from great families. They're all really humble guys and genuinely just enjoy having fun together. And so I believe, yeah, of course, maybe it's not totally luck because that was the one of the biggest reasons I chose Texas because I knew that these are good people. But at the same time, never did I think they were going to be literally my five best friends. And, I could name many more. Chichi Wang, who graduated years earlier, Richie Ciamara, Payne Holden. We had so many guys over the years that I and everyone else on these teams can call best friends. And so I think that's what made it special. It was just a lot of guys that were selfless. There was really no, I guess you could say, bad eggs or guys with inflated egos.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think in a team environment, especially in tennis, if you have anyone whose ego is too big or who believes they should be getting, special treatment or maybe just someone that talks behind other people's backs, if it's as small as that, that can affect a team big time. And we just didn't have any bad blood in our locker room. And so I just was lucky to be around a group of guys that sort of wanted the best for each other and also knew the kind of common goal that we had and yeah, gave everything they had to it. And so it was yeah, it's hard to like even think of any problems we had as a team in terms of culture just because we all wanted the same goal and just loved hanging out with each other. So we kind of call ourselves this little fraternity because um, just
Yeah.
for an example would be there's our dining hall. It's called the Tank, and there's a bunch of athletes there. It's an athlete only dining hall, and people scatter here and there, hang out with other teams, and of course we would hang out with other teams all the time. But for some reason, like for literally 4.5 years, we sat at the same table in the same very small table, like probably fits normally six people. We got up to a team of 14 this year.
Mhm.
And it was just like one of those things where that's our thing. We would gather 14 guys around a table that's suited for six and kind of break some bread, if you want to say, and just talk for hours, talk shop. And yeah, it's one of those things where looking back, like those are probably some of my favorite memories off the court, just hanging out, grabbing dinner with these guys. And so, um, yeah, I guess all in all, I would just say I was just really lucky to have all the people that I was surrounded with on those teams that just were selfless and fun to hang out with.
Really wonderfully said. I'm sure they'd appreciate hearing your kind words like that. That was pretty sweet. So, as you've gone through your college career, has your goals changed at all? Because I understand that throughout the career that you had at UT, there was always that collective goal of pushing for a national championship. But did you
Mm.
have any individually placed goals going into each year, like going as a senior? Did you want to push more for like a leadership role, or were you just happy to be there, happy to try your best and see what happens?
Yeah. No, I mean, in terms of rankings, I never had any goals. That's not really how I go about it. I guess a goal of mine was to try to win the NCAA singles tournament if we're talking about individual goals, but it is just so far in the back of my head comparatively to the team event, which, yeah, of course, for me trumped everything. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of individual stuff, my goal was really to just become the best player I could and help the team in any way I can. And yeah, I've being a leader for that team for, at Texas was probably the biggest goal of mine and probably the most gratifying, like satisfying thing that I got out of the whole experience is just learning how to lead a team and kind of take a role like that. And so yeah, the thing is we had a lot of leaders and just leaders in different ways. And so I would never say I was the leader of the team. Sort of I led in a way, CM led in a way, Cleve led in a way, Ishan, Evan, all these guys, Micah. And so this last year, this is kind of about the last year just because I'm talking about them, but we all had leadership roles in different ways. And that's kind of how we went about our business. But yeah, if like I had to sit back and think about it, just being a part of that team and having, feeling like I had a voice around the room was definitely one of the most fulfilling things. But in terms of individual goals, it was literally just to try to be the best teammate I could every day and come to practice and give my absolute all. I don't like to look too far ahead into like rankings and results. And yeah, I guess what was pushing that always was to try to win a national championship. So if there was any results that I was kind of maybe too uber focused on at times, probably was trying to get a ring. So yeah.
What would you say your area of expertise was then when you said you took on more of a leadership role? Well, all of you did in that sense. Would you say you had a specific area where you felt like you were someone that everyone relied on more, or
Uh,
not really?
I would say I would speak up in a good amount of, I would initiate some team meetings before matches and speak up when I felt appropriate um, for the mental side of the game. We had a lot of guys in our last year younger, and so I felt it was my responsibility to kind of share the knowledge I've gained over the years and also just hold guys accountable. I, pride myself on trying to be the hardest worker in the room at all times. And if people aren't sort of doing what I felt was aligning with the goals that we had as a team and goals that we all set out to do together, then I felt it was my responsibility to kind of call them out. And so, yeah, it was, I guess, a role in the sense that I felt like I could try to help on and off the court with whatever my teammates were dealing with. That's what I wanted to do. But at the same time, if I had to pick a place that I probably talked about the most, it would be the mental side and, how are we preparing for these matches? How are we going into it and with what mindset? So, yeah.
And what did the mental side look like for you then? I think that's really interesting because I think at that level, it's like such fine margins that can get you to the top, and it's anything that you can get over your opponent. And I think there's
Yeah.
been a lot more highlighted in terms of the mental aspect of it all. So,
Yeah.
what did that look like for you and for the
I mean,
team?
there's a million things I could say about sort of the mental piece of the game of tennis, but in terms of like things that I would highlight, things that I talked about a lot with the team was probably number one would be choose challenge. That was kind of one of our mottos. And that's when I say that, I mean, every opportunity that we face as a team we face individually is a challenge. And so whether it's, you got a bad night of sleep, you feel sick this morning, you and your girlfriend are in a fight, or you broke up, or, a family member sick, or you just go out and you're nervous. Um, anything as simple or as deep as can be, at the end of the day, I wanted all of us to kind of embrace that challenge mentality and look at it as something that we can overcome and something that if we do take this mentality on, we're going to be even stronger. And it's really difficult. It's easy to say, really difficult to kind of encompass in the moment. But I feel like, as time went on, we got a lot better at that. And it came to a point later in our career where I just trusted that these guys, no matter what we were going to face, were going to respond in the right way. And another thing I thought I focused on was just trying to think of, everything that could happen out there and having a way to solve it. So I wanted our team to be, good problem solvers. And so when we were going into big matches, it was like, okay, what could go wrong here? What could go wrong here? Like, let's just name some scenarios or some of your tendencies individually, and let's find ways to fix them and let's hold each other accountable to that. And so, yeah, the challenge piece was huge. And then in terms of, I guess another kind of little motto we had was like, be professional. And so I'm a big believer that every little detail counts. And so I wanted everyone to attack the little moments as much as the big moments. And whether it means we're playing a school that might not be ranked as high, or we're playing the best team in the country, we're gonna look the same. Coach would always preach that. He's like, I know things are going well when whether we're playing this team or the best team, that it looks the same across the board in terms of our mentality. And so I consider that professionalism, whether that's coming to warm up 30 minutes early or 45 minutes early and cooling down and getting your grips ready, getting your drinks ready, talking to the nutritionist. There's just so many things that go into it, and you could talk about it for hours. But if I had to highlight two, it'd be to take every opportunity as a challenge, and then also be professional in the way that you go about the little things day to day.
Hmm, wonderfully said. Is that something that you implemented more in your senior year, or is that something that you try to highlight in each part of your year and like lead by example in that way?
No, yeah, we talked about it for all the years I was there. The first year I didn't feel as comfortable speaking up, of course, as a freshman. I kind of tried to lead by example in a way. But as my second year and as the years went on, I definitely sort of would try to share the knowledge that I felt has helped me and see if that helps other guys as they would do with me. So it was an open floor, but yeah, we have million sayings that we've come up with over the years that have helped us, but there's a few that definitely have clicked for a couple of the guys.
Oh, very nice. And so, what was a very special part of UT? You spoke about your dining room table that really only had room for 6, but you made room for 14. What was another part that made it extra special for you?
I would say the athletic department. Uh, of course, I mean, it's easy for me to say the people around the University of Texas couldn't have been more supportive, more respectful, just a joy to be around. Like the general staff at UT is just first class, world class. And so I came to uh I came to the facility every day, and I just knew what I was getting. I knew I was getting everyone's best, and that was just a very comforting feeling. But I would say a very special thing about UT is the vibe in the athletic department. We have so many teams and so many athletes that are trying to aspire to be the best at what they do, and so many Olympians and whatnot. But it really felt like everyone was kind of supporting everyone, and that's hard to do at a school that's as big as UT. Of course, the football is maybe the main thing, and everybody's kind of pushing for Texas football to do well. And it was super fun to have them kind of really do well this last year. But in general, it was like I said, I just felt like there's a lot of selfless people around the athletic department. And so we developed so many good relationships with other teams. And um, it's pretty special when you get 500 elite athletes together that are kind of helping each other, supporting each other, and checking in on each other, just to have fun at school in general, but also just to help each other reach their goals. So um, meeting new athletes and kind of picking their brains and getting to know them well and partying with them, whatever you want to call it, it was an absolute blast. And so that's something that strikes me as what maybe would stand out about UT athletics as opposed to any other place.
So there's a strong sense of like camaraderie there and like support between all the athletes in trying to push each other to achieve all their goals. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, I mean that the standard is excellence at UT.
Yeah.
And so yeah, definitely everyone's pushing each other to be their best. And that was just very fun to be around, fun environment. A lot of, yeah, like you said, great camaraderie amongst the other teams.
That leads on to my next question of like, why do you think UT has so much success? I mean, their athletics program, like these for a long time now, but definitely over the past few years, has just gone through the roof, I think. So why do you think they have so much success with what they do?
Yeah, again, it's the people, but if I had
Mhm.
to highlight something, it would probably be Chris Del Conte, our athletic director.
Mm.
Uh, I've gotten the opportunity to talk with him, and we know him decently well, and I think it's just really, really special to be at a school where your athletic director takes the time to be involved in every single sport and get to know everyone and genuinely care about the athletes that are not bringing in revenue. Obviously, tennis is not a revenue sport, but you would never know. We call him CDC. Uh, he's just put a smile on everyone's faces. He tried to talk to everyone he could in the dining hall, and he'd come to talk to teams individually. He'd know everyone. He'd know the stories, and so I don't necessarily have the experience at other schools, obviously, to know what it was like, but to have an athletic director that cared that much about our individual sport and to have a president, the president, Jay Hartzell, big tennis fan and a huge supporter of us, to have two of the biggest leaders on our campus that involved and, you know, that locked in on Texas tennis is pretty crazy. And so I felt like it trickled down. If you have the two people at the top of the totem pole acting like that and genuinely caring about every aspect of every sport, and you're in the realm of UT, then it just trickles down. And that's kind of the mindset that I felt everyone kind of took on. As the years went on, I really felt that. And so I would credit a lot of the reason UT athletics is so successful to obviously alumni, donors who make it happen, but definitely the leadership and CDC and President Hartzell and everyone that's involved sort of at the top, creating this special culture.
That's incredible to hear. I mean, it's definitely working for you guys. The success that you all had it's absolutely amazing to see. I want to touch a little bit more on like the success you faced at UT and how did you deal with any pressures there? So you were the #1 player in the nation. You've obviously achieved a lot during your time. Did your mindset change? Did like you feel more pressure, more nerves, or how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I felt a lot of pressure at times. I felt pressure to perform for the team. I felt pressure to lead the team. I felt pressure as the #1 player. You name it. You name any pressure. I felt like I felt that at some point. And, you live and you learn. And I kind of tried to learn the best techniques I had to cope with that and ride the wave, I kind of learned later in my career that there was, if I was doubtful, if I was nervous, if, you know, I started slow and I was, so like super mad at myself or something like that, that I'm wired a certain way and I'm not going to change completely, but I can learn and kind of get to understand why I think things and a deeper meaning to it. And so my goal was to sort of ride that wave and find a way to maybe minimize the doubt, increase the confidence. And yeah, I guess I really do. I really did take the mental piece as serious as anything else. And I have a sports psychologist that I work with privately, who I credit a lot of, any of my success to, because she's helped me tremendously. But yeah, when it comes to the expectations and the pressure, I try to channel that stuff in a different way. I don't, I just try to, at the end of my career, or when I thought I've tried to figure it out a little bit more, it wasn't about, oh, I'm the #1 ranked player in the country. Oh, we're the favorites. Our team's the favorite. It just wasn't about that. It was, this is another tennis match. I'm playing a great player. He's capable of beating me. I'm capable of beating him. Let's lace him up and give it our absolute best from point to point and see what happens. I think like the most important thing for me was to kind of narrow in. If you look too external and look at the bigger picture and what the ramifications are of winning this match or, being ranked this and that, then you just get caught up in that stuff. And I see it a lot with the younger kids these days. So my goal was to just take it one point at a time and play as hard as I can. And that was something Bruce really harped on and helped me with a lot. Bruce is great with the mental side of the game, especially. And so just finding a way to kind of get myself in the present, get myself in the zone, and just compete for the burnt orange was the goal, and something that I knew once I was in that place, I was going to perform well. But of course, difficult when you have different pressures and expectations that you put on yourself. So it's just about minimizing those and trying to learn how to live with them also, because it's, we're all human.
And how did you like learn to, you've credited your sports psychologist there. I've done a little bit of work with like a sports psych, and I think it's incredible, like the small changes that you can make that can make such an impact on your game. what did that look like for you in terms of staying present? Because like you said, you got pressure on yourself. There's those outside factors as well. How did you stay focused and locked in?
Yeah, I mean, I have a certain, I guess you could quote unquote call it a meditation, but I have a certain routine that I'm going through on the court. And if I stick to that routine, it's pretty hard for me to get out of the present, if that makes sense, because I have to be so present to be doing that routine that when the little moments come up or the doubts or the thoughts come up, I just try to narrow back into my routine and into this meditation, I guess you want to call it. Um, I don't always want to give away all the secrets that I have, I feel, but at the same time, it was definitely like a challenge. It
Mhm.
was super hard to do. Uh, but I have, these things that we call my sports psych has taught me, but called audibles, and I can
Mhm.
just share this piece. And it was sort of when anything is going wrong, or when any doubt comes in your head, uh, you miss a shot, you lose a point, you double fault on a deuce point, whatever happens out there, you feel that inner voice talking to you, then I just had certain things I would say to myself, to pump myself up, to kind of instill some confidence. Um, and I felt that would override the doubt over time. Of course, it takes a lot of time to instill these things and to really start believing them, but I'm a huge believer in the fact that you can kind of override some of these thoughts and these feelings if you consistently do the right thing and really work on that mental piece. But of course, there's millions of techniques I would use
Mhm.
to try to feel more confident. And but at the end of the day, above anything, it's just, do you believe you gave your all, like in from practice to the warm up to the night before? Did you focus on your sleep? And that, I think that's the most important thing. Like if you're not giving your all day to day, then the mental piece isn't going to matter. You got to start by giving 100% in everything you do, and then of course that's when I think the extra mile, like that extra little audible that you do, or the extra deep breath that you do, you slow yourself down. You remember it's just a tennis match. And
Mhm.
like those kind of little tricks can help. But if you're not doing the right things day to day in practice, and you're not working as hard as anyone, then that stuff doesn't matter. So my the way I would approach the mental side of the game is work my absolute hardest in everything I do on and off the court, and then make sure that the stuff that I talk to my sports psychologist about, I'm remembering, I'm diligently doing, and in the toughest of moments, I'm resilient, and again choosing challenge like I talked about earlier.
Did you ever lose faith in that process of like, because you measure with anything mental, it takes time, and like you said, you have to go in every day knowing that you've committed. But
Yeah.
I know even at anybody's level, everybody takes dips in form, dips in confidence. Um, did you ever have that, or have you always just trusted the process completely?
Yeah, I had it a bunch in juniors. I
Hmm.
was talking to a kid a couple days ago, and I was like, listen, dude, I was in high school and I thought about quitting tennis 5 times. And like, if I had quit tennis, it would have been one of the biggest regrets of my life. And, I could never have imagined where I'd be now, in those moments. You just have no idea. And it's just about stringing days together. But for sure, yeah, for sure, I had moments where I was doubting the process, doubting the mentality. Like, is this really worth it? Blah, blah, blah. But, I'm a huge believer in that your lowest lows bring out your highest highs. And I just, like, consistently in my life, when I've had some of the toughest moments, they've been followed up in some time at some point with the best moments. And I can go back to an example, my second year when I was playing, I thought some of the worst tennis in my career, and in a really bad place, not enjoying it that much. And then a week later, I had one of the biggest wins in my career. I could go back to us even losing this national championship. That was the most devastating day I've ever had on the tennis court, and probably will forever be the most devastating day I have on the tennis court. And um, I really didn't know if I was going to get out of that hole. Like genuinely, it was. I can't explain a worse feeling, and haven't had a worse feeling than that. And so I, I was completely doubting it. We lost that national championship, and I was, I didn't know what more we could have done, and I just didn't know if it was. I was questioning if it was worth it to all that stuff. Looking at, what could we done about, what could we have done better, and
Mhm.
just really in a bad place, and questioning this everything. And then I woke up 5 days later, and I was in Austin with, you know, my best friends, like I said, and I just realized like life's great. Like I still am okay. We lost a huge tennis match in the grand scheme of things. There's a lot of stuff more important in life than that. And then, I had some of the best weeks I've ever had on the tennis court in my first 6 weeks on tour. So that's what I mean. It's like it was the worst moment I've had on the tennis court, followed up by 6 weeks of me playing free, me enjoying it, me just being grateful to be out there. And I think it was mostly in part because we lost that national championship, and it was kind of like the worst thing happened to me that I thought could happen to me on the tennis court. But
Mhm.
I was completely fine 5 days later. Like, of course, it took some time to get over, and there's that pit in your stomach and whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, life moves on, and I'm still gonna be out. I'm still gonna go out there and train and enjoy hitting a tennis ball and laugh with my buddies, and play golf and fish and hang out with my family. There's just so much good stuff to look forward to that I really, after losing that national championship, I thought that was the one of the most pivotal. I think it will go down for me as one of the most pivotal moments in my life, meaning that when what you think is the worst thing that can happen to you can maybe be the best and a blessing in disguise and just teach you a lot. So that was a long answer, but yeah, I would say there's certainly been so many times when there's massive doubt, but and massive lows. But
Mhm.
that's the life of a tennis player, and that will also just teach you a lot about yourself, and bring upon the highest highs if you treat it the right way, of course.
You mentioned there about the national championship as well. I think that I was watching it and it was an incredible final. It really was. And two extremely talented, extremely hardworking teams, both coming from Texas, which is amazing for them. But, what was the mindset like? What was it? How was it going into that match? Like you said, your time at Texas, it kind of had come to this point of there's that goal of always pushing for a national championship, and it's right there. What did that
Mhm.
look like for you and the team? And yeah, please tell me more about that. Because very few people get to experience what you and the teams got to experience.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, coach would consistently talk about how every match needed to look the same.
Mhm.
And that's when he would always say, that's when I know you guys are capable of some really special things. And I thought, at one point in the season, it did start to look the same. We had some struggles early, but I felt really confident that no matter what was going on, no matter what team we were playing and what circumstance, it was going to look the same. And so the way I think our team, approached, I guess, NCAA's and especially that national championship was, of course, like, one, it's a tennis match.
Mhm.
Win or you lose, your is not gonna change that much.
Mhm.
And but at the same time, we were gonna treat it like it's the most important thing because to us it is. And so with that, we came together in a team meeting and we talked about what could go wrong. Like, what are all the things that could go wrong in this national championship? And we went through how we're going to handle it, how we're going to problem solve. And I believe that gave us a lot of confidence going into all those big matches, because no matter what scenario we were in, we lose the doubles point, we're down 5 for sets. We win the doubles point, we're down 6 for sets. Yeah, we have two guys left on the court and we're down 3-2 or 3-all. It's just we went through all the scenarios and all the little tendencies everyone has, and we just committed to each other that we were gonna do our absolute best to overcome whatever scenario we were in, and use the tools that we've learned over our course of our careers to kind of come together as a team and unify and fight off whatever demons you have that day. And so yeah, I just think the reason we got there was because we were all on the same page, and we were all like so just playing so hard, fighting so hard for the guy beside you. Um, but then again, we of course we lost 4-3, and you look back and there's things we could have done better. And personally for me, I was up a set and a break on, and chances to go up a double break, and it was tough, like you feel a massive wave of pressure. And um yeah, I didn't handle it my best. I felt like, that you could always handle it better. And that's something, I'll always, I'll look back on and just try to think about how I could have done better and how I can learn from that, and implement that stuff in the future. And so, yeah, there's of course so many things we could have done better as a team. There always will be and always is stuff like that. But I really did feel like at the end of our careers, especially the six seniors, we got to a point where every match looked the same. Every opponent we treated the same. And no matter what scenario, we were fighting as hard as you could possibly fight for the guy beside us.
Amazing to hear. It really sounds like college impacted a lot for you in terms of your maturity on and off the court and like how you approach things. With such like success and all that, was there ever the idea of, okay, like I feel like I'm ready to go on tour before you graduated, or did you always just think to put the team first and to win a national championship first before that?
Yeah, I was very close to not going to back to school before this final year. In fact, I was at one point I was thinking maybe I wouldn't. And I was playing the US Open and came to school a couple weeks late because of that. But yeah, I was super close to not coming back. And I just, the way I looked at the decision was like, what would I regret more in my life? Would I regret not spending this last year with my best friends trying to chase their dream? Or would I regret going back to college and not starting the professional tour a year earlier than I would have? And it was an easy decision for me when I asked myself that question. Very difficult given all the external factors involved in something like that. But I just I knew that like I couldn't live with myself if I didn't give myself and our team that chance again. And there was just, of course, a bad taste in our mouth. We've been really close to winning, and um, that was the last year was the most special year I've ever had, probably in my life, just because it was so fun. And I was trying to really enjoy every moment and cherish it because I knew it was our last together. And um, yeah, it was a difficult decision, but looking back, like a very, 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 very great decision for me, just because will never regret it. And even though we lost, in the Natty, it's it's still like just the best. It was still the best experience I could ever ask for, and um, I would do that all over again 100 times. And I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, listen, like if you could tell me I could have a stable living and play college tennis for the rest of my life and have a good family and good friends and play with that team for the rest of my life, I would drop professional tennis, and I'm not kidding. Um, and I would never have ever thought of that 5 years ago. But that's just like how life goes. And you get in new environments and you have new goals and new dreams. And I just really fell in love with being able to play and for a team like that and being around guys like that and trying to lead in every way I can. And so, yeah, now of course I'm a professional and I have goals and dreams since I was a little kid that I want to fulfill. But at the same time, I genuinely don't know, and really will always cherish how amazing. Like I don't know if I'll ever have moments like that on the tennis court again, and I will definitely forever cherish like how fun that whole experience was.
Yeah, definitely. With such an impact that like UT has had on you, and like you said, you got to play with your best friends, and you're constantly competing for something in that team environment. What has the transition looked like for you? Because I can imagine it sounds like the team and the culture and being around people that are always pushing for excellence on such a scale like that. I've always heard that going on the tour afterwards, it's pretty lonely. It's a lot tougher in that aspect. So what has that looked like for you these past few months now?
Yeah, I try to implement the things I learned. I learned that I need a team around me, and I love having a team around me. And so I'm trying to build a mini team around me, whether that's coaching, strength and conditioning, physio, sports psychologist, friends, family. I'm just trying to build a team that I can feel is, similar to the way I felt like I was at Texas. And that's just ultimately like because that's what I enjoyed the most, having people around me that I loved hanging out with and that I felt were aspiring for the same thing. So, yeah, I've felt it's definitely tougher. The highs are not as high and the lows are lower. You don't have people you lose a match as a college athlete and sometimes your team wins and it's a great day, and you lose with your team and it's really tough, but at the same time you have all your buddies to kind of help you through that and you're all going through it together. So professional tennis is a lot different in that sense, that you don't have that team around you, but at the same time you look at all the top players and all the top professionals, they have a bunch of individuals that are their team, and a more maybe selfish way, because it's all about your career out there, and your performance. It's not about the team, meaning other people's careers. And so that's been a big change for me, is just kind of thinking about, myself and what's best for me all the time right now. But also the good thing about what I had at Texas is now I genuinely just feel more comfortable in these environments, because I feel like I've seen it all, and I also feel like I have such a good group of friends that are with me, supporting me even if they're not there. So we have a lot of guys trying to play professional tennis from that team this past year, so I get to see them from week to week, and there's a potential we might live together. And so yes, it's definitely more lonely, and the highs are not as high and the lows maybe lower, but at the same time, it's just, for me, it's like a new chapter in my life, and it's exciting to try to fulfill some of my childhood dreams. And one of those things where you just take all the lessons you learned from the past chapter and you try to help catapult yourself in the next. And so, yeah, I would say it's different in the sense that it doesn't look the same every day. You're not around so many people every day that maybe you kind of have to be more to yourself and kind of look out more for yourself now. But at the same time, I definitely am trying to build that team around me that I trust and that I enjoy spending time with.
Mm. And with you, like having played at Texas, and obviously there's a lot of you that have tried to, well, there's a few of you right now that are trying to go, well, are pro and on the tour. Was there much aftercare offered from UT in terms of like support and resources available to help you take that next step?
Yeah, I mean, Bruce I couldn't be better about that. He's open to us coming and training anytime, using the facilities, and yeah, he's always going to be there for us. Same with Littman, same with any of the coaches and that we had, or nutritionist, strength coach, physio. Like, I can always ask anyone questions and run stuff by them. And yeah, I think that's definitely special that they've been so keen on us being able to keep in touch and get help whenever we need. But yeah, Bruce has certainly helped a lot in the last year, and given me a lot of opportunities to have the resources that I need to be a top professional. And um, it's nice to know that you have a guy like that always in your corner advocating for you.
No, definitely, I bet. And do you think college has like prepared you for this next step? How do you think it's impacted you?
Yeah, I mean, it's prepared me for anything in life. I mean,
Mhm.
college tennis and college in general, it's some of the most formative years, and as in your life, probably just because you're so young and you're going through so many different things. Different things are changing, and um yeah, I do believe, like, what we've been through as a team, and what the bond we created, and experiences and moments and lessons that we learned. I 100% believe I'm ready for anything that's going to happen in my life, and ready, excited to kind of take those challenges on and see where it goes.
So what would you say have been your key takeaways from college that have helped develop you into this player on tour?
I would say to have balance. That's one of the biggest takeaways. Sometimes I could get too caught up in the day to day, and too caught up in, how my technique looks on my forehand, or, why did I miss this ball at this moment in this match? And, it's a lot to always be, 100% thinking about tennis. And so in college, I really learned how to balance myself, how to give everything I had at tennis when I'm focused on tennis, and off the court when I'm training for tennis, I'm 100% locked in doing that. But when it's time to hang out with friends, when it's time to hang out with family, when it's time to hang out with, your girlfriend or whatever it may be, like you be present in that moment and you do that to the best of your ability as well. Because if you're carrying over some of the stuff from your professional life and your personal life, I don't believe in that. I don't believe it creates, good habits, and it can be tough on relationships, I think. And so I've just learned like how to balance my life out into the way where I just am getting the most enjoyment out of it, and being the most fulfilled. And so I think my biggest takeaway is just what I've learned, basically making sure I'm always finding that balance for myself, and making sure I always feel like I have no regrets, but at the same time, making sure that I always feel that I'm happy and enjoying what I'm doing. And, um, I now feel like I have the tools to be able to navigate those situations that are difficult and maybe kind of taken away from some of the greater things. And, so yeah, balance, but also like lean on your friends. I have just
Mm-hmm.
being around my teammates. So for 4.5 years, I just learned how important it is to lean on some of your best friends, and how great talking about any difficult situation can be with people that care so much about you, because they're genuinely just you can't do anything alone in this life. You need a team around you in whatever you do. And um to have so many best friends on one team, and people that are always gonna help and literally just want to help, and expect nothing in return. That's something I learned that I will do for the rest of my life. I'll always lean on my best friends and cherish those relationships, because at the end of the day, those times are the ones you're gonna remember. I'm probably not gonna remember, um, you know, losing. I'm gonna remember some tough matches, but at the end of the day, like some of our biggest losses, I'm probably gonna forget about later in life, but I'm never gonna forget about the relationships I learned, the tank dinners, the nights we had out, the nights early in the morning at the facility, the late nights hitting serves, talking about mental, like how to improve mentally, the team meetings. I'm just never gonna forget the little things that we cherished as a team. So I guess, yeah, to sum it up, um, I'll always take away how to find balance in my life, and I'll also just make sure to lean on some of the greatest relationships that I have.
Wonderfully said. And do you have any tips, advice for people who are interested in going on tour or going to college in that transition phase that you're in right now?
Yeah, I'm a rookie. Like I'm trying to figure it out every day for myself too. But I would say like the most important thing for me, and probably the biggest thing I work on my sports psychologist with is believing that, you know, this is my biggest dream. Like right now, my dream is to become a top professional tennis player and win the biggest tournaments in the world. But it's just never going to happen if I don't accept the fact that if it doesn't happen, everything's fine. And so that's the biggest advice. That's the best advice I've ever heard, is like pretty much you have to ask yourself the question of like, what is this going to make me think about myself? What is this going to make me feel about myself if it doesn't happen? And for a long time, I couldn't answer that question. Like I could answer it, and it would just be really, tough to hear.
Mm.
So I think now I have a good grasp on the fact that if I don't make it as a professional tennis player, or, make it to fulfill my dreams, whatever you want to call it, if I don't do that, then I'm gonna do something else in my life, and I'm gonna have new dreams, and I'm gonna try to fulfill them. And there's just so much good to look forward to in that sense. And so it kind of goes back to college. Like I never thought I would want to be a national championship winner, like team national championship winner, that bad. I just didn't know that was never a dream of mine when I was young. But then I got to college, and that trumped any dream I've ever had. And so it's the same thing now. It's like, okay, this is a new environment. Now I'm going back to some of the dreams I had as a little child and trying to fulfill those. But if I don't become a professional tennis player, then, I'll find another dream, and whether that's in finance or whether that's in something else, who knows? But I just really try to embrace that. And I think that's the best advice I could give anyone. Like you need to be okay with things not working out, because then you can go and you can be free and you can enjoy. Like that's where the most enjoyments come for me, is when I'm genuinely just out there playing the game, having fun, and realizing no matter what happens out here, everything's gonna be okay.
Wow. Yeah, very wise words. I think it's very easy to get that tunnel vision and like have that it's almost like a life or death for some people. Like if I don't achieve this, then what am I? That whole identity and hearing that from someone who's obviously achieved as much as you had, been to an incredible school and gone through a lot, to hear that like, if it doesn't work out, that's okay, I think is a lot of thing that will like really impacts a lot of people in terms of what life after college looks like for them. So that was really incredible. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, you could thank.
Similar. Oh, what was you gonna say? Sorry.
I said you can thank my sports psychologist. She's
It,
she's yeah, the
it sounds
best.
incredible. How long have you been working with her for?
A couple of years, yeah, since early in my college days. So yeah, definitely
Wow.
great. Yeah, it's been a great run, and I will continue to work with her for sure.
Would you say it's really changed your game and like how you approach things now by working with her?
Yeah, it's changed my life. Like it's not, I mean, this is all the lessons I learned from tennis translate to stuff off the court. So she's certainly one of the more pivotal people that I've had in my life. And so yeah, I credit a lot of everything, just my day-to-day enjoyment and my success in tennis, whatever you want to call it. I credit a lot of things to her because she's made me look at life in a different way, a different lens than I ever did.
Oh wow. She sounds absolutely incredible. So well played to her, well played. Right, time for some quick fire questions if that's okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Okay,
Mhm.
so first of all, what is your pre-match routine slash pre-match song?
Okay. I mean, my pre-match routine
Mm,
consists of a lot of things. But I would say, of course, I love to I love to just take time to listen to music, grip my rackets, get everything sorted in my bags, take a moment for myself, and then I start getting activated. And it takes me about 20, 30 minutes to kind of go through my warm-up routine. But I listen to, pretty chill music up until about 10, 15 minutes to the match. And then I always listen to some kind of hype up songs. And for as long as I can remember, every time before I step out on the court, I have to listen to Eminem's song "Not Afraid."
Wow. Okay. What does the playlist normally look like for you? Is it more rap or is it, yeah, what does it look like?
It's like,
That 10
I
minutes
mean,
before.
yeah, it's country, a lot of country music, a lot of chill stuff, like maybe some like Kygo in there. But I'm a huge Morgan Wallen fan, so I listen to a lot of him.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I said, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before it gets into more rap, Gunna, Young Thug, Eminem,
Oh, wow.
some rappers that I just enjoy listening to. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So who has been a major influence for you in terms of tennis?
Patrick Hirsch, my coach. I've coached since I was 8 years old.
Mhm. And what would you say your favorite players? If it's a juice point, what are you going to go for?
If it's a deuce point and and they take it on the ad side, I bet my teammates say I'm serving tea and trying to find a forehand and inside out as the first ball almost every time.
Okay, perfect. And what is your favorite part of the tour?
The day to day, like I just love the different experiences,
Mhm,
different places, different moments, highs, lows. I really like I think it's really cool to have a life where, it's not the same monotonous thing I do every day. Every day is different. I don't have the same day over and over again. Every practice is different, every court is different, every person I play is playing different. And so like it's really cool. Like the day to day is just amazing as a tennis player and it's difficult. It's a lot of time commitment and it's tough at times, but I really do think, I enjoy that. I just enjoy the kind of newness to it in a sense, just the randomness and kind of spontaneity or whatever you say. And just like, yeah, in general, just the new stuff I get to experience week to week.
mhm. And what is a talent or a hobby that is unique to you?
I don't know about unique. Like I golf is like my favorite thing to do, and I haven't been able to do much of it the last couple of years because my wrists. Fishing as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's particularly unique.
Mhm,
Um, I'm a huge fan of like health and kind of learning more about psychology and I just really enjoy listening to good podcasts and
mhm,
uh I guess I'll just drop, my two favorite are a guy, Modern Wisdom, Chris Williamson. He lives in Austin, actually. I'm dying to meet him. But, he's one of those guys that teaches you a lot about life and talks to experts in every field. And I'm just really interested in that stuff and kind of learning how everything works and trying to improve, whatever you want to call it, I guess self-improvement. That's just a passion of mine. And, you know, Andrew Huberman Lab, that's a
Mm,
podcast I
yeah.
absolutely love too. So I would say, yeah, listening to podcasts and just trying to learn about different facets of life is very enjoyable for me.
Lovely. And what is your handicap at golf?
It was like an 8, or I think
Oh,
at one point
wow.
down to 6, but I got injured. I had wrist injury surgery a couple years ago, and it's a little too risky for me to take a divot, a potential divot bigger than I would want. So yeah, no, I don't play much golf anymore.
It's still very high, very high. And a question I have from my previous guest on the podcast, she wanted to know, is there something you would do different in your college career?
No, I mean, I don't have any regrets. Of
Hmm.
course, there's some things that maybe you wish you learned at a younger age, but that's not your journey. Everyone has a different journey. Everyone, is on their own path. And I think that's the fun part of it. That again, like I said, the enjoyable part is just that you have so many different experiences that you're going through. So I wouldn't do anything different, but I would say if someone's asking for advice, just surround yourself with the best people you can.
Perfect. And do you have a question for our next guest?
I mean, I guess a question you're
Hmm.
probably gonna ask, like, what was your best moment in college, or
Mm.
I would say a question to look back on is, or a question I would have for the next guest would be like, what are you gonna look back in 20 years and remember the most about college tennis?